Welcome to the Messenger Reveals. I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned, and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. Welcome back to part 3 of the function of the church, and wrapping up the Secrets of the Kingdom series, revisited with my brother Patrick. How are you doing, Patrick?
I'm good. Not recovering. I'm pretty much done recovering from our little excursion on Sunday off the lake there. Me and Bree were definitely exhausted after our super fun, exciting, adventurous day out on the lake.
Yeah, Lake Pleasant was a blast. I mean,
Seriously,
got ourselves a boat, got ourselves a tube, got our families together.
It was awesome.
Cruising the river for 8.5, 9 hours, or not the river, cruising the lake for 8.5, 9 hours.
Yeah, jumping off the boat and swimming.
Yeah, having a nice food, good drink.
It was
we're having
great.
a good time. Definitely
Awesome.
Definitely gonna have to do that one again.
Absolutely. It's such a fun thing, especially if you get like a bunch of people together and then everybody chips in.
Absolutely.
I know it was for Johnny's birthday, but next time we'll have to get everybody together and have everybody pitch in, and it becomes really cheap at that point.
Yeah, and we still had room for probably another 4 or 5 people, So like if another family wanted to join us,
right?
We could. I mean, that thing holds like 14 people,
right?
And just rent it for the day. And like I said, if people want to get a jet ski or two for an hour or two, we can always, take them back to the marina, and they can get jet skis. Pay $120 for an hour or $350 for 4 hours. However they want to do it. Those things are a blast too. Have you ever ridden a jet ski?
I've never been on a wave rider, but it's on the bucket list. Because you ever see someone not have a good time on a jet ski? I don't think so.
And what's the best? You end up cutting it the wrong way and you go flying off the jet ski.
That's right.
It's like kind of like wiping out on the tube. I know. I was having fun. I was trying to like once you guys got the feel and gist of it, I was like, let me get them outside the wake and see if I can get them going real fast out there and get that tube to flip.
Right. I'll have it known, he couldn't buck me off, so it's good to know. But then again, our boat was not underpowered, but it wasn't super powerful by any means.
Yeah, it was 150 horsepower sport pontoon. It's not like we got the 500 horsepower jet boat.
Right.
But no, it was a good time. I just wanted something that was relaxing, and instead of doing the 20-footer, we did the 24-foot one so we could pull a tube. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it only goes up to about 20 miles per hour, or what is it, like 35, 40 knots. I don't know. I'm not definitely a seaman. I just know how to drive a boat because I used to work at a marina when I lived back in Michigan, and it was a blast.
Yeah, it was definitely fun, but apparently it's 17 knots.
Oh, is that what it is? So the knots are less than the miles per hour?
Well, I think the knot is, pretty much. So it's 17.3 knots, actually, to be exact.
17.3 knots is 20 miles per hour.
There you go. Math lesson for the day, guys.
Right.
Not all about the Bible here, as some may say.
Yep, so... anything else going on?
Nope. Just, like I said, we kind of went straight back to work the next day on Monday, so pretty much just work and hanging out from there. We've got kind of a busy week ahead of us. Me and a good friend of mine who have done, sound stuff. He kind of went into private contracting in the summertime for local churches in the valley that might not necessarily have a large budget, and we're going to be doing a screen build for him coming up here this next week. So that should be fun. A little extra money and just
that's awesome.
Something I love.
Yeah, I know you always have a passion for that stuff, so it's good that you get those gigs every now and then to kind of keep you refreshed.
Right.
I know. What
about you?
Nothing. Just I'm still trying to put together a format for the new channel that we're looking at, and I'm thinking I might even do like a morning show, the mornings with Messenger.
Really?
And do it at 6 a.m. If you wake up and you want to join, cool. If not, just do it maybe something like even 15 to 30 minutes, if not 30 to 45 minutes of just a morning and going through things from either day before, week before, things coming up, kind of like maybe help people prep their day,
Oh, yeah. Day prep, definitely, for sure.
Anything, if things come up or whatever's going on or something I heard the night before, like on a live stream, just more like news in educational, or maybe poking the bear or squeezing the orange, but not anything in depth or in detail, but just kind of like going through a series of things. Because I was like, I could do that where, I don't think it would interfere with, getting up in the morning, before my work day. Because I don't start work till 9 o'clock. I work 9 to 5. So, doing a show from 6 to 7 or 6:30 to 7:30 would be easy to do.
Right.
And I figured, I know one of the things that our secret partner was having concerns with is availability. But I think I think with doing that and also adding in a couple nights on a in the evenings, then that's 7 shows a week.
Sure.
Like getting the specialty shows out there, and then obviously if with some of the other things we're going to do, if somebody else is picking up a show, you pick up a show, or he picks up a show separately, or whatever it is to balance it out. I still think we can get out a lot of content that way. Mm-hmm. Make it fun, get information that people want to hear, talk about the things that need to be talked about. Everybody's tiptoeing. I'm this whole world of let's walk on eggshells. I'm going to be basically going after that institute, because they're creating such a fragile and overly sensitive, easily angered, easily wounded, easily frightened society, and basically making people slaves to this world. And it's just going to be about beating up the ignorance of making oneself a slave, and how do you become empowered. That's what people need. And it's time for us to start speaking up and against the people who are enabling the problem,
Sure.
And
I definitely think, like, I know we had a pretty long conversation, what was it, last Thursday, with our super secret sponsor, if you will, not sponsor, but
our producer,
super secret producer. And that's going to be his name now, super secret producer.
SSP.
And I mean, you ended up, well, I told you to go to bed and you didn't listen. It was on a live chat that I called you out on. But we stayed up to like 3 a.m. just chatting about everything. And it was open and, just respectful dialogue about all topics. And it was just such a good conversation. I remember telling you the next day we're going to do like a Table Talk Wednesday, if you will.
Yeah, and why can't there be like a show where you guys just just chat,
Sure.
back and forth, and just broadcast it live? Things that people, to spark interest and spark creative thought and inspiring thought, and a different way to process information and look at the world in a different way. And then if it triggers somebody, or somebody comes after you guys, there's me. I'll come in and mop up.
Sure.
I'll take the trash out.
Well, by the way, speaking of, since we are having an engaging conversation, I just want to say thank you for being involved in this conversation and not off doing something else while we're live streaming. That's really appreciated.
And their own selfish ambitions to sit there and participate in somebody else's live stream without doing their own shit on the side. When you told me that, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Perfect.
Sorry, I have 20,000 viewers. I can't be bothered by this 2,000 viewer channel.
It's perfect, because it just sums up everything about them. But anyways,
yes,
we've talked enough life. We're already getting into Conversation Wednesday, or whatever we're going to call it. We actually have a teaching to do tonight.
That's right.
On the gift of living in harmony.
Yeah. So if you're watching live, feel free to.
We're probably going to go to 4 parts.
Yeah, so if you're watching live, please feel free to participate in the live stream. If you have questions along the way, ask them. Patrick will flag them and get them. We'll stop and get them answered right away. If you're watching on replay, feel free to leave your comments and questions below. Patrick and I will get back with you as soon as possible. And here we go in our continuing part 3, talking about the gift of living in harmony.
3, 2, 1, go.
Boom. Oh, wait. I got to get to the other page. There we go. All
3,
right.
2, 1, go again.
Let us therefore make every effort to do what leads to peace and to mutual edification. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Yeah, I got to work on that one. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn.
You and me both.
Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels, and the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but be kind to everyone. Yeah, all right. We're going to want to.
You're gonna sweep that one under. I'm gonna sweep that under the rug. Hold on.
Sorry. I've been charged with squeezing fruit, so I gotta figure out. I'm still kind, anyways. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you.
And the next thing he's gonna say is, well, it was to Timothy, and he was a little young, like you, Patrick. So whatever."
Paul was saying, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Yeah, and I would say that's horseshit, Paul. That's not what I was taught.
So Paul says, do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God, without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. But avoid foolish controversies and genealogies, and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. Do not let unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, and it may benefit those who listen. Teacher, said John, help me, for whoever is not against us is for us. Master, said John, we saw someone driving out. Oh, this is just Luke's version of it. John, we saw someone driving out demons in your name when we tried to stop him, because he is not one of us. Do not stop him, Jesus said, for whoever is not against you is for you. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. But the wisdom that comes from heaven, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peaceful, loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Dog triggered a kid toy. I was like, what is that? You lay down, girl. Harmony is so important, not only within the body of believers, but also with the non-believers throughout the world. While it is important to address issues of truth with those who speak ignorantly or maliciously, correction and admonishment should always be done with love, gentleness, in the hope that the truth will lead them to repentance and life. Or carry a big Thor's hammer and smack them right in the nose.
Yeah, if you're using John's method, it depends. It's like being Kyle and destroying. Oh, sorry, live stream wasn't turned down on my phone. And taking a giant sledgehammer to drywall, because sometimes it just needs to crack, in his opinion. I take a more laid back approach. There's probably merit on both ends and some benefit in between.
Sure. I mean, when people get to the point of bordering that blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, which is where they start to vilify that which is good, where they are in that stuff, if you don't come against it in a harsh and direct way, then people start to subscribe to that. So part of sowing the seed is to come harshly and admonish those things. It doesn't mean I don't care about the person I'm doing it to as a human being and realize that they can't do anything different or better than what they're doing. But at the same time, if you don't do that, then you're doing them a disservice by not coming against that and speaking against it.
Sure. There's been a few, mostly recently, I guess, at the office, where there's someone that I kind of work close with, and I was just sort of giving her some skills about, some of the relationship advice that we had been given a while back with like Dr. Harley and all of that stuff. I was just sort of passing that along to her and sharing little bits, and then,
Nice.
Everybody around her was trying to villainize what had happened. She got broken up with in a bad way. So,
right.
And there was a moment where I just kind of was harsh with everybody around me. And I'm like, you all need to stop trying to tell her to be strong and be this and be that. Like, she needs time just to sit and reflect and focus on what was good and bad about the relationship and heal from it.
Sure.
What you're doing doesn't help her at all. So shut up.
Well,
I might have stifled that
Ginger,
part. Just
get out of
because
there.
it was the office.
You know better than that. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, I mean, that's the time where you have to admonish ignorance and stupidity. And when people are feeding into negativity or, pushing people to sit there and reflect and focus on something they shouldn't be reflecting and focusing on, and what sounds like what you're talking about is people need to sit there and have moments of going through grief and loss.
Sure, absolutely. But going through that, my point in saying that it's like, you can sit there and call this guy an asshole all day you want, but you're only going to hurt yourself in that. I'm not saying what he did was right at all, because it wasn't. It was immoral and it's wrong. All I'm saying is you don't need those negative emotions attached to that to say that.
No, because it's feeding into the negativity. It's feeding into the
Right.
harm and the hurt, and it's magnifying things and getting people into this process of ruminating on things, and that's such an unhealthy reflection of the past.
Sure. I said, look back at the relationship, and despite what happened, there were good parts about the relationship, parts that shaped you, parts that are going to shape you going forward in what you do and don't want in a relationship. Be thankful for those moments ultimately, and then
Absolutely.
move on. And at the same time, you can say, what he did was wrong. That's not okay. I'm not going to be a part of that. That's 100% accurate. And I know there was a real moment of like saying and breaking it down in a understandable format. Because that I remember I mentioned one of these videos, like still one of the things I'm working on is explaining things in terms that you and I may understand what I'm trying to say, but to the someone who's just never heard it before, it might mean something completely different.
Yeah, like, and when it comes down to breakups, split ups, or whatever, healthy relationships don't end.
Sure.
Healthy relationships don't end. So when people are, like talking about whose fault it is or who is this or oh, I should have done this or should have done that, healthy relationships don't end. If it's one person or if it's mutual, they just don't. So, why would you want somebody to stay with you if it's miserable for them and or miserable for you?
Right.
The healthy relationships don't end. So be thankful for that it's ending now rather than another 5 to 10 years down the line. Because the longer
Sure.
things go on, the less life enjoyment is going to be beneficial for somebody. Unless, like you said, there's lessons to be learned when we have these experiences, and failure is one of life's best teachers.
Right.
So let's talk about the gift of gathering. For where two or three gather in my name, there I am with them. And again, a lot of people confuse this because they believe that three people getting together to pray together and asking for stuff,
Mm.
saying Jesus's, physical name is what, yields them into it. And it's like basically saying, where two or three gather in my name, Jesus right there. So they picture, oh, Jesus is like right there. Like you and I are talking, Patrick, Jesus is
Jesus is
right
here.
here.
He's putting his God would know
That's
you're
not what
here.
that's not what the scripture means. Two or three gathering in his name. First, in my name, we know, and as I've reemphasized, Patrick's reemphasized, means in the authority of. So where two or three people are operating in the authority of Jesus, which means they walk in his image and likeness and carry themselves in the manner in which he does, therefore he's there with them in essence, in spirit, in nature. It's like, yeah, grandma's spirit's still with us because we're like grandma. What we do for tradition carries on in us. And it's the same thing when it's talking about it here. You're the embodiment of Jesus. And where two or three are together, it's forming probably a perfected symbiotic bond, whereas one person can't be perfect like he is.
Right. It's no different than when Jesus said, if you don't see the Father in me, you don't know the Father. How can
Yes.
you claim to know him if you haven't seen him in me?
Yeah,
It's the whole idea being re-explained by saying, look, you guys are going to become it now. Therefore, where you guys are and you're like me, I'm there too, because you're the same as me at that point
yeah, it's like
in the parts that you are.
exactly where we're perfected. It's like him. Where we're not perfected, we're working at a solution, on an answer, on a truth to sit there and embody a level of perfection in the area we're coming up short in. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. So again, this is talking about the importance of coming together with people. So many people, oh, I just need my Bible and the Holy Spirit and I'm good. And again, it's people need people. We're here to sit there and be a collective group of individuals working together towards a greater goal.
Right.
They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up, meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And again, this is one of the things that you talk to me about, is people making time for you or not making time for you. And people do that all the time. It's like, hey, let's start a small group. Hey, let's start a Bible study. Hey, let's start a fun night or a game night or whatever night. And they do it for a little while, and then life gets busy, life gets hard. Oh, I can't make it. Oh, Bob didn't show up. Now Sue's not showing up. Now Sue's not showing up. Now Jim doesn't show up. And all of a sudden, instead of 20 people meeting, it's 8 people meeting, and different 8 people every other week, to the point where things just dwindle down and go, well, I guess nobody's really interested anymore. Let's go ahead and shut this down. I'm tired of being the one to only host it, type thing.
Sure. And I mean, I think on another part of that, it's like, in my experience with that, there have been expectations laid out of what it was supposed to be or what it was going to look like that never really get fulfilled, or maybe they get fulfilled in the beginning, but it doesn't continue. Because there's this idea in the Christian community, I guess, as I've experienced, that every I guess, event we do, we being, I guess they now being the Christian community, that every event they do, every hangout they do, everything like this, like, always has to be linked back to getting people into salvation and doing this or learning and growing in Jesus. And while that sure has merit at a time, ultimately it's not, I don't think it's sustainable, because sometimes people just want to have fun. Can't we just hang out and, I mean, like, shoot the shit and just have fun? It doesn't have to be a come to Jesus moment every time. And as that's progressed, eventually enough topics get covered, and people just get bored with the experience. I know I did. I was drafted into
because
creating.
so many people are always having to put on the mask and putting on a fake persona when they're around other believers, because they can't, just be genuine and say that they're frustrated or they're angry or they're suffering or they're miserable or they're upset with this person or upset with this person. It's like, nope, I got to sit there and show loving and show kindness and show forgiveness and show gentleness and show encouragement. And I have to be perfect in these ways, because I've already had my 2 to 3 altar calls in the last month. And if nothing comes from that, then this isn't working for me. And I can't let people know this isn't working for me, because I don't want to discourage other new, and it gets into this vicious church cycle that they do, rather than people just authentically coming together and being human beings. And learning to become better versions of themselves, learning to become healthier, building each other up for where they're lacking. But nobody's going to know where you're lacking if you're always putting on the fake persona. Be authentic and be real, be genuine, be who you are, and we'll build each other up. There's different strengths and areas that we all have to give one another. You're not going to know what those things are if you're not sitting there being honest and open about who you are and what you may or may not be struggling with.
Sure. But I know, like, one time I got not drafted, that's the wrong way to say it, because I willingly went into it, but to build a youth group for the church I was at. And it's like, we met and it was awesome. And on my end, I'm sure I had delusions of grandeur about what it was going to be, because I was all about, I'm going to build this thing, and it's, I'm going to be at the forefront, and I'm the tip of the spear, and all that stuff. And then we slowly just became this click hangout thing where we never talked about anything of value, and we never grew. We were going out and having dinner or lunch, and it was the same old group of people, and half those people I was already friends with, hanging out with anyway. So what's the point? And so I left.
It's kind of like just people get so used to just going through the motions together.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And it just becomes this habitual ritual practice that's not enjoyable. It becomes almost like an obligation or a chore, or like, oh, do I really want to go do this tonight? And you're not looking forward to it, and you're not excited. Like, I was excited to be coming to hang out with you on Saturday.
Right.
Like, Demi, I was like all excited. Not the fact that I was late, but I was still excited.
Right.
But and then we see each other. It's like, had a good time, and that's how coming together as people should be. It's good to see you, awesome to hang out, love chatting with you, and having good open conversation, enjoying recreational activities together. That's all this gathering thing. It's just not about coming together and like, hey, let's talk about God, and let's talk about the Spirit, and let's talk about this, and let's talk about this, and let's talk about how we got to be better Christians, and we got to tithe and give and do all. Shut the hell up.
Right.
What are you doing to live together? Are you really bringing food to share because you just loved what you cooked, and you're hoping people can enjoy it and enjoy that experience a moment too?
Right. I'm glad you said the excited thing, because it reminded me that I meant to mention before we got into this. Another thing I did this weekend, it's on topic, thankfully, is I took my mom out for her birthday this Saturday, and I was like, "Where do you want to go?" And she's like, "Well, just want a greasy burger and some French fries. And I was like, oh, okay. She's really into like healthy eating and working out, so that's splurging for her. So I was like, okay. And I remember that it was actually Saturday we went because we met Sunday. And I remember going and driving there and just being excited to just go have a conversation with my mom. And that's how it should be. That's how
Sure.
it should be with people in the community and in the body. Just, I'm excited to see you and just share ideas and talk. And like that ever since I sent you that Joe Rogan podcast, like it's really just been this, just excited to like actually just have a rational conversation with somebody and share different ideas, and there be none of that, "Oh, you're fucking stupid for thinking that." It just really is like, I never heard that before, or, an open discussion of ideas.
Exactly, and it should be that way even in these YouTube communities. People should be excited and happy to see each other, even people that disagree with one another, and welcoming that debate and that argument and that difference of opinion, and just listening to the information of why somebody thinks and believes the way that they do, and then sharing why you think and believe the way that you do. Everybody's always trying to win in debates. It just does not work. Remember, the church can be any public or private gathering place for believers to praise, worship, and serve the Father in fellowship with one another. That fellowship is a key thing that we've all been talking about. All that conversation and fun and activities and recreation and everything that's enjoyable. It's not just about coming together, singing songs, listening to a sermon, doing an altar call. Let me pray for you. That's not what church, in my opinion, is. Church is living life together on a daily basis, just like you would your family. And then where your family meets together and they do life in a certain way, that's what it should be like when a group of 50, 100, 200 people meet together. It should still be that open and warm and kind. It can be myself, kicking back, doing whatever I do with this family.
Right. I'm curious, like, because the issue, and maybe this is just my experience with not seeing how we live on a mass scale, but it seems that once you get to a large enough number, you would have, I guess, certain, I don't know if sex is the right word, or I struggle to see how that would look. I know how it works with like 2, 3, 4 people, but with different, let's say it's 100 people, like, I wonder what that looks like, like, how does that look?
Well, you're right, because like if it got to 1,000 people, let's say, there's only so much time, even in a moment or a day, you're not going to be able to interact and mingle with everybody.
Sure.
But if the nature of that environment was you could walk up and talk to anybody at any time, have something in common, get to know each other. Hey, seen you here the last 3 times. I'm John. Nice to meet you. Hey, I'm Bob. Good to meet you. Really? Yeah. How long you been? Oh yeah. You just meet and greet new people. And you do that often enough, you're not going to always remember everybody or always talk with everybody. But the nature of it is genuine and warm and authentic. And
right. And then there wouldn't be any of those like, oh, but he didn't say hi to me, or he didn't remember or any of that negative crap that goes on.
No, because there's that understanding of you can't meet everybody. You can't talk to everybody. You can't remember everybody's name. I mean, but at the same time, it's a sense of community. Right. It's a sense of like if the city is millions of people, and then your local housing community is another hundreds of people, thousands of people, whatever, and then you get down to just community, to where it's you pass somebody, hey, how you doing? Hello, how's it going? Hey, good to see you again. And everybody's looking out for everybody. Somebody sees something going on with somebody's kids, and they're like, hey, and they come in and they intervene, or they protect, or they whatever it is. But it's a sense of
isn't it sad today that there's this, I saw this plane crash video where a guy had to ditch in the ocean. Luckily he was right by the beach, so he kind of bailed. Everybody's around filming with their damn phone, and it wasn't far enough. It was close enough to the shore where you're not going to get pulled out to sea or anything like that. Go friggin' help the guy. Come on, like, get off your damn phone and go help this guy who just crash landed his little Cessna into the ocean.
Right.
I mean, he crawled to safety. He was I think he was okay. Didn't really post a story or anything. But what the hell? Put your fucking phone down and go help him.
Well, the interesting thing is there's actually psychological study on that. It's called the bystander.
Yeah, yes, where
It's
they've
the
done
it's
like
the
smoke in
it's
the
the it's
room
the
and
it's the
stuff like that.
bystander effect. So the bystander effect suggests that the more people who are around, the less people will help in a situation that requires crisis, or doesn't
Right.
require crisis, but is a
I've heard of
crisis
that.
situation. Like if a woman was being raped, or if somebody was being mugged, or somebody got hurt, or like a car accident. The when there's less people, or you're the only one, you're more inclined to help than if there's 10, 20, 30, 100 people around. Because
Right.
it's that bystander, somebody else is going to intervene, somebody else is going to help. Now you got 100 people thinking that same thing.
Mm.
So there's very few people who act in terms of like a percentage of people who are going to act in those moments in larger crowds. You know, there could be the
Sure.
oh, I would help every time. Yeah, you don't understand situations until you're in the situation, and I've been guilty of it. I remember, car accident happened, and there's thousands of people. I'm like, "Pfft, somebody else will get it. Somebody else will call 911. Somebody else will call whatever. But then there's
Right.
been situations to where I've acted and I was the only one around, or only a few people were around, and you feel more empowered in those situations. I just remember studying it in our psychology and clinical counseling
No,
about
I've heard of that myself in one of the, I told you I was watching that psychology course, and they mentioned that as well, different ways they study that. But Jeff, sorry, I almost said Jay. Jeff asked the question: is there a term for a person who is not affected by the bystander effect?
I would say somebody who's aware of it. I mean, is there a term for it? It's probably the hero, the person who's a hero, the person who's courageous, the person who's the stand-up guy, the Medal of Honor winner. I mean, there's something perhaps in a prepared psyche that allows them to overcome it. I would say awareness is the first thing. So obviously, if you're aware that certain situations or certain things may go on, you might be more likely to act. Or if you're a doctor per se, or you're a helping profession to where you've been trained to be a helper personality, a nurse, for instance. I think that some level of training, some level of awareness matters in those situations to be able to step forward. But I don't know if there's an actual specific term. I would have to look it up, but I'm sure somebody's coined something by now. All right. The early believers did not gather once or twice per week, but rather every day, and that was according to Acts. They did this with glad and sincere hearts because of this, they became united with one another and had everything in common. And Jeff said, I encountered people who took time to check on me after I had a bad auto accident. These were people that I probably had nothing in common with, but in that moment we couldn't be closer. And that's awesome. And if it sounds like that people checked on you after the fact, is that what you're saying? So even after you got into the accident, or were these people like during the event? I'd be curious to see if it was people coming together and then that, creating a lasting embodiment of relationship, or if it was just people who were coming to check on you after the fact and were continuously following up because of that care that they have. Talking about gathering places, and all the believers used to meet together in Solomon's colonnade. On that day, a great persecution broke out against church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria.
You said right after the collision.
Oh, see, and that's huge. And how many people were around in that time? Were there tons and tons of people around, or were there very few people around? And the church throughout Judea, Galilee, Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened. Again, this is talking about all the different places that people gathered and came together. It wasn't always everybody had to be one group or one thing. They gathered in many different places. Then Barnabas went to Tarsus to look for Saul, and when he found him, he brought him to Antioch. So for a whole year, Barnabas and Saul met with the church and taught great numbers of people. The disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. And I've always made the point of the disciples being called Christians was not a term of endearment. It was a term used by pagan and non-believers to make fun of, quote, Christians. Like
he said two families.
See, and that's awesome. My guess is they just, there's probably something in there if you interview those people that they either knew of those things, had those things happen to them and somebody helped, or that they were just natural helping professions. And I just think that It's the few and far between in those moments of a huge crowded situation that are able to overcome that bystander effect. Now, in the church at Antioch, there were prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. He went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches, and that was Paul. From Miletus, Paul sent to Ephesus for the elders of the church. As you can see, the church is not a specific denomination or building, but rather a gathering of believers wherever they may be. And so many people got all these denominations, especially in Christianity. I think that with all the different doctrines of belief, it's well over 80,000. With all the different denomination labels, it's in the 20 to 30,000 range. And it's just ridiculous, but it's because it's created so much division in this group of Christianity. And this is why I always say Christianity is going to be the dying religion, and you're going to watch Islam and the Muslim community grow and grow and grow, and it's going to become the dominant religion here somewhere between 2050 and 2100. Christianity is going bye-bye.
What are we going to do, man?
So now we are here on the anointed positions with the church. Is this where we're supposed to leave off for the last part? What slide number is this one?
This is 104.
And and I think we stop at 135, right?
Let me just double check that. Well, we stop at 134, so we got 34 to go. We're like at 38 minutes.
Gotcha. Go ahead and ask Jeff's question.
Yeah, he said, how do you both feel about the Roman Catholic Church, about how the Roman Catholic Church, I don't believe that was of God at all. Like 100%, it was all politically motivated, and they were in it for their own prosperity. I think Constantine, he may have had some sort of vision, like the story of his conversion. Maybe he made that up. Maybe he had a heat stroke. I don't know, but he was a man after his own devices, and he, set up what essentially became the Catholic Church. And I disagree wholeheartedly with how that church was formed. It was not how it was supposed to be. And I get how it happened from a persecution standpoint in terms of church history. Like, they were all driven underground, and then ultimately that's kind of how the pagan ideas got into Christianity, is because they were driven underground with the pagans and forced to interact. But yeah, how the Catholic Church.
Well, there's so many things with that, because even with Catholicism, who do they believe that their first pope was?
Peter.
Yeah, and who established the church in Rome?
It was Peter, wasn't it?
Nope.
Or was it Constantine?
Paul.
Oh yeah.
Paul established the church to the Gentiles in Rome, was the very first Christian apostle in Rome. Then Peter was crucified upside down in Rome when he visited by the Roman emperor. So Paul, I mean, how can you sit there and say that it was established? They didn't even formulate themselves as the national religion or the empire religion until St. Constantine's rule. Then he made all these people come together to have one unified theme, one unified set of beliefs, eventually one unified set of books or letters that they would accept. And every time that there was fights or division, Constantine made them choose one. He was not going to allow any type of division. He used Christianity to control the empire until it split between the Roman Catholic, the Western Roman Catholic, and the Eastern Orthodox Church. Right. So,
I mean, and just in the whole history leading up to, like, everything before Constantine itself just was not, I don't believe it's the way it was supposed to go, and it just led to a lot of corruption because they started becoming a political entity over an actual, I'll even say even over an actual religious movement. They started becoming a political entity, and that's just not what Jesus or God intended ever.
Yeah, and I think the Roman Catholic Church, or what was actually the one holy apostolic church, which is the very first one that formed under Constantine, they picked Peter because the letter specifically said, on this rock I'm going to build my church, and they wanted to be the embodiment of that church. So therefore, they have to use Peter as one of the, quote, the cornerstones to which they aligned all other stones. However, it's Paul and his doctrines that are more widely accepted within Catholicism, and the books that they chose to follow and the methodologies that they chose to follow were around Paul. Because remember, Paul was the one who said, it's better if you don't marry and you're like me. Well, what's prevalent in the Catholic Church? Priests who don't marry. That wasn't Peter. That was Paul. And so they sit there and attest to Peter being their first pope, but their first pope was Paul. Now, Paul didn't carry himself as a pope. Peter didn't carry himself as a pope. And they were both martyred just at different times. But Paul was the one that brought the church to Rome, not Peter. And when you argue with Catholics, they lose their heads over this talking point.
Yeah, and For His Cause says the church was being persecuted and was growing because of the persecution. That part is true. Satan couldn't stamp it out with such, so he popularized it true Roman Catholicism. This shorned her of her locks and robbed her of her power. Kind of, but it was a slow process, and I think you and I might disagree with what Satan actually is, but it was just this very, I don't know. You got to think of it as these people who have been persecuted and they've been beat and they've been doing these things, and then ultimately this guy comes along and pretty much says, "That's it. It's the state religion. We're not going to, with this. I think was it the Edict of Milan that he, gets rid of persecution."
Right.
And then they get invited to the table to discuss religious ideas. They're scared about that when that happened. I'll tell you that much, because now they're coming to where they could all just get killed out and their entire religion is wiped out. But then they find acceptance. Then they get given some power by this new emperor, and all of a sudden, wow, this life is pretty great. It was a slow process of meeting and becoming a political movement rather than actually being.
And it was because they also blended, pagan holidays in with Christian beliefs and Christian teachings.
Right.
Like marrying Jesus's birth with the winter solstice, and then his death, burial, and resurrection around Ishtar.
And that was it. That was a Constantine thing. But even before that, they're meeting with pagans and those ideas. Remember when we talked about how ideas are kind of a linear thing? It's not just like one end. They were driven underground with the pagans already and intermingling with them.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right on that. And let's see if there's any other questions here, because we're about to shut down this live stream. If you can't beat them, join them. That's how Satan took it down. Again, attributing power to Satan gives Satan power. And I think it's a mistake within the Christian church when they acknowledge and embody Satan, the devil, Lucifer. When you do that and you constantly put power and authority in an entity's thing, you manifest that thing to have power rather than removing it. And human beings need to be held accountable for what human beings chose to do. And they're the ultimate ones that were given authority and dominion over this planet, not Satan. So again, I'm just not this big, putting responsibility on Satan or the devil or Lucifer. It's just not a empowering thing for believers to do. So I guess that's my issue with it, is I refuse to acknowledge any power or authority towards Satan or a devil or Lucifer. It's just not going to happen for me.
Right. And I'll finish up with Jeff's last comment there, and we can shut it down. But
yeah, what do you say?
I think the Roman Catholic Church has some good points, especially considering the tradition of the church, which is what you guys have been talking about. I'll absolutely agree. They have some good points, but just to the question of how it formed, I don't believe it was of God or of Jesus. I'm not got Catholic. I mean, everybody says when they're criticizing a religious organization, I've got best friend. But I have Catholic friends. They're great people. I'm sure they have some great ideas, and ultimately they shaped a lot of what modern Christianity became. I mean, they just did.
Of course they did.
Were the first to do it.
Yeah, the value and benefit of the Catholic Church to some degree is carrying on and preserving the teachings of Jesus. The issue and problem with it is it's become so unhealthy. 3.4 billion Christians not living for God, not living as believers, not living in freedom, not living in peace, not walking in salvation. So what the hell's the point? If 3.4 out of what? No, I'm sorry, 3.2 billion Christians out of 7.5 billion people on the planet getting it wrong, doing life no better than anybody else. That's a problem. So great that it exists. Great that the teachings of Jesus got preserved. They're not teaching those things. That's what this whole Secrets of the Kingdom is trying to sit there and reveal, this is what Jesus taught. This is why Jesus taught it. This is how Jesus was teaching people to transform and renew their minds, becoming born again, putting on the old self, becoming the new self, becoming healthier and holier in their inner being through a practice of discipleship and coming together. That's not the Christian church anymore. Mainstream modern day Christianity sucks.
Yes.
That's
the blunt of it. Yeah.
I hate to be harsh, but if people don't get out of that dogma and that indoctrination of false teaching and false hope and this, I guess it even has this sense of pride and ego that everybody thinks they got it figured out and the other denomination and divisions in the church are wrong.
Right.
It's not living for him. It's just not.
Just as I think what you guys have been describing is a better description of what the church should have been and not the institution has been. Oh, thank you for that.
That's what we're trying to do is like talking about like I don't, if people are coming together in sincerity and genuineness and building each other up, that is the church.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this
building or thing or entity.
It's this us against the world mentality that so many people have, and they take this and they be like, we have it right and you have it wrong. And it's like, people have what they have because that's what's been given to them. We all are right, wrong, or indifferent, healthy or unhealthy, positive, negative, good or bad, however you want to coin things. We're all given what we've been given. And we should all be working together to get towards a better version and better life for ourselves so that we can actually do something in authority and dominion that we've been given here rather than just mindlessly going through life, mindlessly believing that life's going to be better at some point, but doing nothing to make it better.
Right. I don't have anything to follow that, man. Like, how am I supposed to follow that?
well,
That's okay. I've done the same thing to you. So.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks for those who came by to see it. We're going to wrap up this teaching series next week with part 4. Peace, love, and blessings to all who have eyes to see and ears to hear. We'll see you next time. Love you guys.
See you later.